Thank you. Yeah, Bridget was saying this is a very strange room, and your primary audience is a reflection of yourself. It's not very good. Can I check, who was in Matt Pierce's presentation just a while ago? This fits quite well with what Matt was saying. There's a little bit of overlap on one slide, but the rest of it just builds on what he said. There's a couple of videos on these slides. I can't see from my tablet here if they're running, and they're silent videos. So I might need to ask. I might ask you if they're running, and that means is there movement on them? Okay. So there's 6 things that we're going to go through. Oh, here comes Matt now. So the first 3 are going to be on definitions, what is meant by video. Again, building on what Matt was saying, why have videos, why create videos? And then some detail on how we at Cherryleaf create the videos that we use for the online training courses that we offer. And the last 3 topics that we'll do is some of the issues and pitfalls and challenges we've had in creating videos. And then the equipment that we've used over time and the equipment we use today. And I've got a couple of things here I can show you. And to give you some indication on costs. There was a 7th point, but when I did a dry run, I ran out of time, and that was on the duration of videos. It's pretty much the same as what Matt was saying as well. If we have some time spare, I'll talk about another site that's done some analysis, which pretty much confirms what Matt was saying is TechSmith's experience of how long videos should be. So, video, what is meant by this? The reason why I've put this up there is sometimes there's confusion over what's meant by video and what's meant by screencasts and walkthroughs. So what I mean by videos is where is the video moving? 3. Is the situation where you've got a person and they're moving. It's a video of a person. And so generally these are video clips for in a technical communication situation, and for us, video clips inside a screencast. So where we're doing training material, what we like to do, rather than just have the delegate listening to an audio track and just watching a set of slides, actually having a video of the presenter there as well. And that means it becomes more like television, more like a TV program or a news show. And it's doable, this type of approach of the slides or the image on the left or the right and the speaker on the other side in the tools that technical communicators use. It's doable in Camtasia, it's doable in Adobe Captivate, or the most recent versions of Adobe Captivate as well. Is this one moving? The other way that you can do it is you have a presenter that's standing there and then you cut to the slides that you want to show. And generally, the situations where you would use this idea of having video in the material that you produce is training courses, online training courses. That's the way that we mainly use it. Also walkthroughs, where you're guiding people through step-by-step how to solve a problem. And more from a marketing perspective, if you're involved in that side, in creating simple overviews of what a product does, why you might want to use it or what it can do. So, why add this video element into things like screencasts? This is the overlap with what Matt was saying. Video is very popular. #1 search engine is, you don't know what #1 search? Google. #2 search engine is represented by that icon there, YouTube. More popular than Bing. More popular than Facebook, we discover. Another thing, I went to the TACOM conference in Germany in November, and I saw a presentation by 2 people from SAP. And they do online help, and they do screencasts on how to use the SAP products. And what they were saying was, within the last year, that from their analytics, they're getting more people watching the videos than reading the help. People will be prepared to sit through a 4-minute or a 2-minute video to get to the information they want than actually to read a piece of text that maybe they could read in about 30 seconds' time. Now that may be because the screencasts are covering more topics than you'd get in a single help topic. But for SAP now, they're seeing the value of putting more time and investment in doing screencasts compared to maybe the time they were putting in before for writing user documentation online help. Is this one moving? Yeah. And the other reason for that, it's gone. The other reason for that is that video makes information much more engaging. It makes it much more interesting. And YouTube is full of thousands and thousands of these videos that get loads and loads and loads of hits. And that's because we're sort of programmed as people to be interested in cats and dogs, but and babies from a technical communication perspective. Movement and faces attract people and are much more engaging than just a screenshot or just an audio track. So that's really very briefly what we mean by videos and why we've put time and effort when we've done the training courses and other things to put video into them. So let me talk a little bit about the process that we work to now in actually creating the videos. Is this one moving? So what we first do is we write the slides for our training course, and we send those out for review. And then what we do using a digital recorder is we go through the training course as if we were presenting it, but actually just recording it via audio. And this means we get a natural script. Rather than writing the script and having somebody read it, we read out what we want to say and tell the delegates, and then what we do is we convert that, we transcribe that into a narration. Then what we do is we get into the stage of actually recording the videos. And what we do is we put that script that we've created for the training course onto a teleprompter, which is actually a tablet, and we have that sitting under the screen on the laptop. So the presenter can see the slides and the presenter can see the script. And then they present. They read what's on the script, they click through with a clicker the transitions between the slides. And then that goes into the authoring tool, the video editing tool, which for us in most cases is Camtasia for the Mac. And then we do the editing. We use the bits of the software, special effects to get rid of the green background. And then we send it out for review. Unfortunately, there are situations where there are bits that aren't right, and they have to be re-recorded. The sound's gone wrong or something like that, or it just doesn't make sense. And what we have to do is then do callbacks and re-record sections. By having the script, what we're able to do is to re-record what was said exactly as was said before. What we found originally, where you just spieled and just said what was on the slides, when it came to re-recording, it was very hard to remember quite what you said the first time round, and some of the good things that you'd said could be lost. So that's then approved and reviewed, and yeah, that's okay. And we publish the final video, and that goes out. So what have been the challenges in actually going through this and doing this type of approach? Well, the first one is getting used to recording, and I was trying to find the most carry-on pictures, and there's Robin Nesquith. Do you remember Robin Nesquith? Nesquith? I can't remember. Nesquith. He used to be Adventures of a Window Cleaner, I think, and other things, sort of very cheesy 1960s movies. Well, when he appeared in the Carry On movie, this one's, I think, Carry On Girls, the role they gave him was the cameraman, because, again, the sort of sleaziest characters in a sleazy film like Carry On is the photographer. And there is an element within sort of British society, I think, that somebody has a camera or a video camera, and it's suddenly somebody thinks that you are filming a Carry-On film or something like that. And there is also another aspect of being in front of the camera and being recorded, particularly if there's somebody recording it for you. What we do is we tend to set it up in a way that the presenter is actually recording themselves. So there's no one else in the room. There's no one else that for you to be embarrassed seeing you make mistakes and getting things wrong. And if it is wrong, you can just delete it and you know it's not going to go anywhere. it just takes practice. It takes a little while of getting used to. But if you just record yourself, you'll get better with practice, and you'll just get used to it, and it becomes less of a big deal. Matt mentioned this as well, audio, and the importance of having good quality audio. And this was and has been a big issue for us. So anyone heard the term plosives before? It's, if I try and screw up the audio here, it's the P's. Their microphones are too good. But if you say the P's and the B's, it can make on the graph, they go off the scale and gets distorted in that way. And another big issue with audio is echo. And within tools like Camtasia, there are filters and things you can do to the audio to clean it up, to make the sound balance out in terms of volume. But getting rid of the echo and getting rid of these plosives is quite tricky to do. So one of the things that we've had to face is actually how can we avoid these problems, because these were one of the main reasons why we had to re-record stuff. Is that one moving? Yeah. Another challenge on the video side was having a background that was appropriate. And often in an office or at home, you have these backgrounds which are very distracting. So you can have a plain background, and then the challenge can be with the lighting, the reflections, and getting the reflections there. And another big issue for us has been the shadows, particularly in the corners of the video, where you'll have the lights and it will cast a shadow onto the surface behind. And if you're going for the look that we have of a white background, and you have the presenter, and you get these little shadows that suddenly appear, again, it gets very challenging to get rid of those, and you have to go back and re-record those. So what we've done over time is start off, beg, borrow, and steal different bits of equipment to create videos, and then over time, because the online courses are growing in revenue for us, and it's worth putting the money back in to create more videos and do better ones. We've spent some money on getting better equipment. So let's start with audio first. And the first thing to say is don't use a desktop PC, because they have fans inside them, and often that interferes with the audio. And equally, don't use the line in, stick your microphone into the audio in on your desktop as well. That gets, again, very poor quality and very distorted. So we learned that lesson very quickly, and what we've done for the bulk of our audios is we've used a USB connection in, and we've just used a webcam and the audio on that. We're presenting in mono, doesn't need to be stereo, and the quality that you get from pretty much from many microphones that are plugged in via USB is good enough. And as a backup, as a scratch track, and as a way of having a backup in case we do get these plosives, and we have an alternative recording source instead of that, is we use smartphones. And you get apps for smartphones for recording, ones that are standard with it. This one's called Smart Voice Recorder. There's one for the iPad called Recordium that's very good. And we have often either the webcam above or just hanging below, so again, away from the direct air that's coming out. And the smartphone, again, by the side, so it's in a different place. It took us a while to realize that life would be a lot simpler if we bought what musicians use, and that's what's called a pop screen. And it's this little circular thing here, and you often see these on videos of singers when they have them over the microphones. It's like a set of tights strung round a thing, and what that does is it stops the pressure of the air coming through. The sound goes through, but it reduces this plosives thing. And the other thing we did was we've upgraded from this to a digital recorder, and the quality is pretty similar. The advantage of this is this has got 3 microphones in, and one of the things it does is it reduces the background noise. The AV guys over there, they've got one from a company called Zoom. It does a similar thing as well. And you just get slightly better quality from these devices. For the video, in some ways, we're pretty low tech. What we use is actually a laptop, a MacBook, and we use the camera that's built into that. And so the presenter's looking at the laptop. They've got Camtasia or Captivate running in the background. They've got their slides up, hit record, and then they've got their clicker for the mouse, and they just talk to the screen. And they see the slides, they see the script on the teleprompter, and they just talk away. The quality on Windows video cameras can be not as good as with Macs, but for what you're doing, particularly if you're reducing the video down for bandwidth issues, it's probably good enough. If you want better, again, go back to the webcam, you've probably got a webcam around, stick that on top of your laptop, and that's a good way of doing it. And that's slightly less intimidating than a camera that's right in front of you and you're talking to this camera, this sort of disemboweled machine. Another thing we do is we have found the most effective way of doing things is to present standing up. You get more energy as a presenter by standing up than sitting down. And so what we bought was a couple of architect tables, which you can angle. Got them off eBay. You can set the angle of it to a certain height. And then you can see directly your line of sight to the laptop and present in that way, and that works quite well. Another thing we've done is just pile up boxes on a desk and just have it at the right height, and that's another way of doing it. Disadvantage of that is it can move around and wobble, but it's another good way of doing things. I'm looking all over here. I need to look over here. I'm not giving you enough attention. What we're planning to do in the future is add some more video where it's less a static person just standing in front of the screen, but maybe stuff, particularly for screencasts, on the move as you were out and about. And so one of the things that we've acquired is a little compact camera. This is a Sony Rx100, and what this will do is it will do 1080p HD quality at 60 frames a minute. And these are small and light, and they get pretty good. You'll get professional level quality video with an SLR, DLSR, but this you'll get close enough in a smaller size and at a considerably cheaper price. One thing to be aware with these things are that they can only record for about 30 minutes until they get a bit too hot. So you are limited by how much you can record in one go. So another aspect is lighting. And in the early days, we'd do it in a well-lit room with overhead lighting. And that worked okay until the clouds came over, and suddenly the room would get darker and the software would try and compensate, and you'd get our dreaded problem of shadows happening again. Often the presenter was a bit dark in the face, so what we did for that filling in of light was we had a number of LED reading lamps, and they, fluorescent tubes, they provide a white light, and we'd have those sort of pointed at the presenter. It would work, but we had this problem of having to re-record stuff. So what we use today are these. We started off with the little, I'll come over to the screen, the little black lamps that you can get for sitting on top of SLR cameras. They've got about 106 LEDs. And we bought a number of those, and they work quite well. And then we realized that the fluorescent lights that we had in the room, which we weren't turning on because they cast a yellow light, we could buy LED fluorescent lights, which produce a white light, so we replaced those. But the most effective things that we've bought are the like photographer umbrella lamps, and these have LED lamps in them, and you turn them on, and they're on all the time. And they've got these umbrellas, and they cast the light back, and they give a very nice diffused light, and are well worth getting. So backgrounds, I mentioned that earlier. In the early years, what we had was we just find a background that was white. And what we found was we could increase the brightness in Camtasia or Captivate, and it would make it really, really white so that we could merge it in with the slides. But what would happen was the shirts would then get all distorted with strange colours, until we discovered that cornflower blue, a sort of mid-blue, was very, very forgiving. And if you stuck somebody in blue, sort of mid-blue, and you amped it up, the shirt still looked like a shirt and didn't go wrong. The problem then became the face. There'd be bits of the face that became overly white, but it worked. The fix for it in the beginning was to then go into a tool like Sony Vegas or Final, what's it called? Final Effects? What's it called? Final Cut Pro. And they've got spotlight for elements, and they can make a scene, like add a virtual spotlight to a video. But the processing takes ages and ages and ages, and so it just wasn't really a wise way to go. So we moved to having these type of pop-up banners, and we turned them around. So the branding was that we had on the front, we'd turn them around, and they had white backgrounds on the back. And we used those, and we stuck to the cornflower blue shirts, and that worked quite well. We still had some issues with shadows, but that was quite a cheap way of doing it. The only issue became with these thin ones was where you had two together, you could end up with a little border shading where the two were butting up. But today, what we've done is, which we probably should have done a long time before, is do what photographers do and buy a frame, buy some green screen cloths, and present to those. Right at the beginning, we tried that, and it was terrible. We couldn't get rid of the green background, and that was because we didn't have the right lighting. But since we got the lights, now when we put the green screen in, we record to that, goes into the editing tool, hit the green screen feature to get rid of the background, and it works, and it's consistently good. So script, as I said, we began by reading from the slides and clicking through. It was a lot easier to click through and have the slides synchronized or the images synchronized than trying to add them in afterwards to the video. And as I said, it made going back and re-recording stuff tricky. So now what we use on a smartphone or on a tablet is a teleprompter app. And that makes it a lot easier to go back and fix things. And in that image you see it just sits by the slides just underneath the camera, and you can just read it. And you can set the speed as to how fast or slow it records.
Is that a specific application?
There's a number of them, yeah. If you search in the app stores on Teleprompter, there's a number there. Software, you've probably got Camtasia or Captivate. They're very good, you're familiar with them. You get very good results with those. If the video needs fixing, you can go to these more professional videoing tools. SAP said they also use Adobe After Effects. They'll record receptionists or things that people do, and then they will use After Effects to make those people sort of silhouettes, black and white, so they're depersonalized. Music bed. We don't use a music bed, and Matt was talking about the disadvantages in the type of content that technical communicators do. Again, SAP, the guy that's involved with that, he is a musician. And so one of the things he does is he spends days recording dedicated musical beds for the videos that SAP do. If you're not that way inclined, you can go to a site called melodyloops.com. You can spend £4 on getting a royalty-free musical background. It'll take you about 15 seconds to find it, and then you've got your solution to it. Much more effective way for a very affordable price. And then where do you record? Basically, you need anywhere that's quiet, where there's not a great deal of change in lighting. And if you've got a background, it could be in the office or training room, somewhere like that. And some noise is acceptable. Where we are, the airplanes go off from Heathrow 1 day in 5, and you can guarantee that one day will always be the day when we're recording our videos. If you can build a recording studio in the grounds of your house or office, that's great, but not many of us are able to do that. Okay, so the last bit, how much does this all cost, getting all this equipment? Lighting. Okay, so Graham, how much do you think it costs to get for those type of lamps? The LED lamps? Yeah, the umbrella type lamps.
Oh, the umbrella type ones. I think we could get a pair of them for what?
150, you think? Who thinks higher or lower than that? Lower. Ray, how much do you think for the fluorescent tubes?
Are those really LEDs?
Yeah. 55, yeah. 30 each. Who thinks higher or lower?
Lower.
Higher. It's a lot cheaper than you think. Those are from eBay, those prices. You can get those on eBay. Fluorescent tubes, 20 quid, including delivery. The LED lamps, the small ones, 106 ones, 14 quid. That's the prices that we paid. A lot less than you think. Audio. Bridget, how much do you think it costs for an app for recording on a smartphone? 90p. Who thinks higher or lower? A pop mic. Who do I know? Karen, how much do you think for a pop mic? This thing here. Yeah. True. All right, digital recorder. How much do you think for a digital recorder? Webcams you've probably got already, so we'll call that as free. Pop screens are only a £5. A lavalier mic, the ones that sit on your clips, you can get a decent one for, well, decent enough for 9 quid. Audiophiles will probably scream at me saying that, but you can get a decent one for that. This retails 150. We got this for I think 80, but you can get good enough for 30 quid. And the apps, yeah, they're free. If they're not built into your smartphone, then you can get one for free without if you want. And background, Andrew, how much do you think for background? 70. Higher or lower? Lower. You've learned that, yeah. And if you get the lamps and the light and the background together as a deal, it's about 55 quid, something like that. And a teleprompter. Who else do I know in this room? Don, how much do you think for a teleprompter app for a tablet? Yeah. Less than £1. You might want to pay that, but again, assuming you've got the tablet, most of the apps, teleprompter apps, are free of charge. They'll have a little nag advert at the bottom, but they're free of charge. And software. Matt, how much would you pay for a Camtasia or a Captivate?
Well, let's see here. Captivate's a lot, I'm sure. Camtasia, I can tell you US dollars. It's Camtasia for Max, $99 for US, $295.
Yeah, it's 79 for the Mac. For in the UK, £79. Adobe Captivate, if you've got the technical communication suite, you've got it bundled in there. If you're to buy it brand new, it's £944, amazingly enough. If you upgrade, it's about £300. And I think Camtasia for Windows is about 200 quid, about that, I think, yeah. But the Mac version, which is really, really good, is very cheap as well. But you may have that. If you've got technical communication suite, or if you've got Camtasia already, you've got the software. You don't need, they'll do the job. So for a basic setup to get decent quality, good quality video, you do need to spend some money, but not a huge amount. You probably need to be prepared to pay buy £80, and the bulk of that will be for your lights and for your background. But you can probably get away with spending 80 quid. The more you spend, the better you'll get, but it could be as little as that. If you do go for the no expenditure, you will pay the price in terms of the time that you have to edit and fix things that have gone wrong. 10 minutes. Okay, well, how long then? I have got time to just talk about how long. There's a website for hosting videos called Wistia, W-I-S-T-I-A. And you can host a video on that, and people have to subscribe to watch the video. They give you stats on when an individual's stopped watching a video, or if they've gone back and re-watched a section of it, and that can give you a good indication of which bits are boring in your videos and which bits they're really interested in. They've done an analysis of all the people that have watched the videos that they host. And what they said was that there's a big drop-off up to 2 minutes. Then it doesn't really matter if it's 2 minutes or 4 minutes long. Then there's a drop-off between 2 and 4 minutes. After 4 minutes, as many people are watching at 4 minutes that are watching at 10. And once people get to about 4 minutes, they're generally the attitude, well, I might as well stick through to the end. As I've watched 4 minutes, so I might as well watch the rest. Then from 10 minutes on, it does decline more than that. So I'd agree with what Matt said. Make your videos to the time that they need. Don't worry that it has to be less than 60 seconds or has to be less than 2 minutes. Make it to the appropriate time. But 4 minutes, Matt said 3 to 5 minutes, is probably a good target to go for. Maybe break things up into different modules. And has anyone heard of the YouTube 20-second rule? There's a rule that says that on any YouTube video, you can skip the first 20 seconds because it has no meaningful content whatsoever. So be careful with your first 20 seconds, and are you just waffling, or have you started with a bang and really got into your content quickly? So to summarize, it's much easier than you think to be able to create professional-looking videos. You have the skills and information designed to structure and organize learning material and walkthroughs, and you probably have a lot of the equipment already in your company, on your desktop. And the bits that you don't have are affordable. Even if the company won't pay for them, you could probably stump up 80 quid yourself to get them and to produce something that's very good. And that's really the end of the presentation, apart from questions, and to say you can always ask me afterwards. Apparently there's 3 other people in the world with my name, but the other 3 aren't on the internet. So just search on my name and you'll come across my contact details. So question time? I've got some time for that. Because they're in the white pages, in the American white pages, and that's how I found out. That was not a question I expected to be asked. You're stunned into silence. Oh, right. Hi, Ray.
Well, it's actually not so much a question, but a little tip from an audio guy.
I'm supposed to give you this.
The audio guy.
Okay.
It needs to be on.
It's on.
Is it? Hello. An audio guy. Yeah, so you were talking about plosives.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. But at the same time, you also need to, especially if you're recording in a room that's not got a lot of absorbent surfaces, you do have to be careful about the proximity of the microphone. If the microphone's too far away, you'll get a lot of room reverberation. You get what they call off-mic sound. And it's one of the most common errors, and it's also one of the greatest impediments to understanding what's on the video.
Yeah.
So I'm basically sort of underlining some of the things you said before, and specifically with regard to proximity. And if you want to be close and avoid the plosives, you put the microphone underneath or to one side or even above, but pointing at the nose. If it's pointing right at the mouth, then you get those sounds. And this mic is very good at filtering them out, but you're still getting them.
So on the Wistia site, they have lots of videos about how to record videos. And one of the things they recommend is the microphone above, and they have a boom mic permanently in place. We tend to have it dangling down because we don't have a boom mic, and it would be pain to set up each time. Having it dangling down works quite well, as long as you don't kick it or trip over it. But that's one way that we've approached it, or just to the side is another way. Hi. Microphone time.
Thank you. I know you advise that it's good to go to a quiet environment when you want to record a video or an audio sound so that you're sure of the quality of the sound. But what if you travel to a long distance to an area that you think is quiet, and on that day it's the bad day, and that's the only day you have to record, and you record,
Yeah.
and the sound is not very good. What do you do? Do you have softwares that you can use to treat sound? Because we know that there's certain softwares that exist that most technicians usually say, it's not a problem, we're going to see how we can treat the sound. Are there softwares that you can advise us to use?
So within Camtasia, it would depend on which version of Camtasia, there's a thing called remove background noise. And if you've got a bit of you highlight a bit of silence, or supposedly silence, on your audio track, and it will then filter out that bit. And there's also, you can do it in Audible? Not Audible, it's Audacity, thank you, as well. What we tend to do, because we're doing it on laptops and we'll do it in short 10-minute segments, is if it goes wrong or if it's not appropriate at that moment in time, we can just leave, okay, we'll do it in an hour's time or something like that. The other way is to have a microphone that's very narrow in its beam of field, and the sort of lavalier mics, and again some of these digital recorders. There's one there which has got, the Zoom one's got 2 microphones, and you can angle them so they go for a very narrow area, and the boom mics a very narrow area as well. The downside of that is if you wander around, you can go out of the beam of where they are. So there is some things you can do to fix it, but some ways try and avoid the risk of being stuck in a situation where if it goes wrong, it's a major problem. So I guess I'd recommend. Right, thank you.
Well, so thank you very much, Ellis, from all of us, and very interesting presentation.
Thank you.